Sweet. So my name's Rosie, and I'm an artist manager. So I tend to help out with like bands and musicians. Yeah.
Excellent. So, how did your journey into the music industry actually begin?
So mine's is a bit different from a lot of people. Mine's kind of came through family and life events. Some of my family, like even my dad was like a musician, and I just loved it. And then my cousin was in a band called the Lapels, and just watching him do his own thing like made me want to do it. So Gary made a project called the Spaghetti Factory. So I was helping produce it and everything, which involved like booking the artists, getting the catering, like going to like Ticket Scotland and figuring out how a customer will get the ticket, and the film crew and everything. And I just fell in love with it. So after that, I kind of made it my mission to speak to everyone I could. So I spoke to some tour managers, spoke to some like people that put on the gigs, even like people that sell tickets at gigs and everything. And then kind of found my place. And I also worked at a festival called White Days through in Edinburgh, helping run that whole entire thing. And I decided I wanted to be a manager, so took it from there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, did you actually complete any formal education relating to the music industry at all? Anything that you've picked up that you could transfer?
So no, I studied graphic design, and I was a graphic designer. Um, and then when I decided, I just woke up one day and was like, this isn't for me, but music is. So these skills do transfer. Like it helps with like the small things of gig posters or like even just social media banners and things. Like it does help and transfer. But when it comes down to the nitty gritty music, I have no qualifications. Yeah.
At all, not everyone needs any, which is
Yeah,
a beautiful thing about this music industry.
it's very true.
Um, so, how did you actually get into artist manager work?
Um, so from my market when I worked at White Days, I saw this band and they were called Crystal. I just fell in love with them when they were playing live. And it was quite a weird one. So we both decided, like, we ended up messaging each other after it, saying, let's go grab a coffee. And as I was going to say, I've never been a manager, but I'd love to try it, they turned around and were like, will you be our manager? So it worked perfectly for me. And then I was at a gig, LCD Sound System and Young Fathers were playing in SWG3. And I'd ran into my now boss. So his name is Scott Kirkwood. Scott used to manage people like Louis Capaldi, um, and things. And I basically was just like, Scott, like, never met you before, but can I come make your coffee? Can I like do admin work? Like, I manage this band, but I don't really know what I'm doing. So I'd love to learn from you. Um, Sent him my CV the next morning to his email address and got a phone call the week after, got offered a job with him. And since then, I've never left. Yeah.
Wonderful. So, you basically saw a band that you liked and you just approached them and said, hi,
Yeah.
I really like you. Are you working with anyone? Do you
Yeah.
want to be working with someone? And they were like, sure.
Yeah, that is genuinely how that went down. It was very quick and unexpected, but at the end of the day, I kind of learned that I would never get a yes if I didn't ask. And I kind of had nothing to lose either because at that point I wasn't managing anyone. So um, yeah, I'd always say try and just go for it. Worst that happens is you get a no. So yeah.
That's exactly it. And obviously with Wide Days, which essentially do give a platform to a lot of bands that, are small and up and coming and, maybe don't actually have management, they are like the perfect place to go.
Yeah.
Or scope out to see like if anyone is needing an artist manager.
Yep. No, it's a great place to find that out. So
definitely. Especially since like I always find that like a lot of places like, White Days or Exponor for these other big sort of conferences, they usually do filter bands.
Yeah.
Before, they put them on their showcases. So you
Yeah,
are obviously guaranteed bands that maybe not necessarily say are better, but probably, ready for that sort of step up.
Yeah, so when I was working at Whitey, so I was part of the team who selected who got to play. And we'd technically judge it on the music standard that was there, and try and get a diverse genre, and diverse locations. But it also came down to like, do they have like a logo? Do they have like press images? Do they have like a bio and things? Like it was the bands who had all that sort of information were the strongest candidates. Um, so I'd say if you are applying to something like that, make sure you have a wee package ready to send off.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so you started as a artist manager for sorry, I'll sort of circle back and stuff, and
Oh, you're fine.
yeah, with the fact that obviously you got a job with Scott, and it
Yeah.
was just a case of you went up to him, said hello, and asked him for a job.
Yeah.
Which
I'm not going to lie, I thought he would say no. And it didn't. He just basically like, because I had sent him my CV the next day, he might have thought I was joking like the night previous. But when I sent him my CV to his email, he was like, all right, she actually knows what she wants to do and what she's talking about. And that to him, he said like that was the thing that basically made him want to give me the job, because he was used to people just saying to him, oh, it'd be cool to do this, or like, you have a cool job, I want to do this. But he said because I acted on it the morning after, and was just very open about not having had that experience yet. For him, it was something he wanted to start developing me, and just saw that there was passion. So
yeah, then sometimes that's enough for people to give you a chance in this industry, because
yeah,
at the end of the day, we all sort of start bottom ground, and we kind of, not that you rely on other people, but there are people out there that are willing to obviously give you a hand, because remember what it's like. It's not an easy industry to break into. It
yeah.
totally isn't. Okay, so then obviously you agreed with Crystal that obviously be their manager. So what are some tasks that you'd go ahead and do for them as their manager?
So I'd say as a day-to-day manager, you kind of get two managers on a team usually, and I take both roles. So I deal with the contracts that come in, but more day-to-day it is sort of looking at their schedules, like helping them go get band practices, like just making sure that that package with like the bio and like the press shots are up to date. Hiring like a photographer to go get new pictures. Um, it's like a big list of organization skills, really. Um, and then it's also when they send you the music of their demos, like give them feedback. I'd always say be honest 100%, because you don't want to lie to them and then 2 months down the line you're like, I should have told you to change that guitar part or something. But the aim of the job essentially is to get these artists like a record deal or a publisher or a booking agent. So for anyone that doesn't know what a booking agent is, it's a person that books your tours and books your gigs for you. They'll try and put you on like really cool tours and get you good fees. The record label are the people who put out your music, and a publisher buy the rights to your music. So usually they'll give you a lot of money up front so that you can make your album, and they'll try and get you on all the adverts and all these cool TV shows as well. So essentially my main job is to network with everyone and get that team ready. But you do have all the wee nitty gritty things like organizing a photographer, or booking a band practice. That one I don't like doing, I'll be honest. I think if they're over 18, then they can book their own band practice. But yes.
I suppose it depends on the sort of band that you get as well. Yes. When you're obviously working with them. I mean, the band obviously I worked with were like religiously would obviously rehearse once a week, twice a week, and music was all down to them. I basically just did all the admin and the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
And musically, obviously I let them have their free reign. I could give my opinion, but at the end of the day, like if they didn't like my opinion, it didn't matter.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So it is the artist at the end of the day. So really, as an artist manager, you're like, I would say I'm there to advise my opinion and try and tell them what I think would be the correct decision. But it's their decision at the end of the day. That I can't force anything upon them. So
Yeah, that's exactly it. Obviously there's different management styles and different levels of management that bands will actually need. There'll be bands that you will be doing absolutely nothing for them. Everything they won't breathe unless you tell them they can do it. And other bands are just like, we'll sort everything, we'll deal with everything, no problem. And sometimes all they really do is like they need like a name behind them, so they seem almost like more legitimate.
That's the thing.
Yeah, it's really interesting because when I was up at Expo North a few years ago, I was there at a keynote, and it was a sort of artist manager keynote, and there was this really interesting thing that was brought up that I can't remember who did the keynote either. They said that like there's someone working at a record label, and he was like, he advises all artists to at least have a manager because it looks suspicious if they don't have a manager, because it seems as though maybe they're not as good as they say they are musically, or they're difficult to work with if nobody wants to work with them.
People do have that perception. I do personally think it's unfair. But it is like realistically, I've heard that from a lot of industry people. Usually it's like if a band send the music to a record label themselves, they probably won't listen to it. Which I think is shocking. But it is what it is.
It's just the way that it works and has always worked. But it does obviously mean that you are needed.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's a job somewhere.
Yeah. Cool. So all sorts of stuff. So obviously we're Crystal, who have rebranded to Dead Pony.
Yeah. Absolutely love it. That was a really nerve-wracking decision for me to allow that. Well, I wanted it, and then, in all honesty, the day before we changed everything, I panicked and called them. I was like, I don't want to do this. But in my gut, it was the right decision because Crystal had been about for maybe 2 or 3 years by that point, and they only really had a name within Glasgow. Loved their music. And over time, like we changed band members, we changed the sound a little bit, and it just felt right to launch it as a new project. And then the advantage to that was all the industry people thought it was a brand new band. And if you're a brand new band, they think you're cooler for some reason. So it was the right decision. And I feel like it fits the band, like their image, who they are as people. And they're a lot more happier with it. So
yeah. It is a weird one because it falls back into that sort of weird mindset of like, if you've been around for a certain amount of time and you haven't like made it or progressed up quickly, people sort of, maybe it's because people's attention spans nowadays, like they lose interest.
I think that is a true factor. They just want new things all the time. But in retrospect to that, there's bands like, say, like Idols, like they were a band for 10 years before they made it, and like Interpol were the exact same. Same with Franz Ferdinand. They were a band for like 7-8 years. Yeah. So I think the industry are wrong when they say that you can't be a band for like 3 or 4 years and have nothing. Because at the end of the day, if the music is amazing, then go with that.
Yeah. It is a weird sort of perception as well. Also, it falls into the same category of like, if you're not a certain age as well, like they expect these young bands to be like amazing instantly and not realize that actually it's the older bands would be better because weird obsession with music with like youth. I've actually maybe find myself sort of challenging that sort of perception myself the past few years, being like, why am I not listening to bands that are in their 40s and
I do that as well,
or bands that are in their 50s? Like, they will be good. Why am I like blown up all of a sudden? I mean, look at LCD Sound System. James Murphy didn't actually start writing until he was 32.
Yeah, no, exactly. The old ones win, we've discovered.
It makes me feel better about aging, to be honest.
Yeah, no, me too.
Cool. Okay, let me ask this one. So what are some sort of career highlights you have had with the band that you've worked with?
Personally, I find this one difficult because the small things are the highlights to me. I think some people are like, "Oh, you got your band to go play Glastonbury, that's amazing," but seeing any of my bands sell at a venue is amazing. There was Walt Disco got to support Interpol, which Interpol are one of my favourite bands, so that was a dream come true for me. Seeing the Ninth Wave support Churches at the Hydro, just seeing them on that big stage was like, I can't explain it. It was overwhelming. But I'd say one of my favourite moments was we were doing a festival run last summer with Dead Pony, and they played a festival called Truck Fest, which is in Oxford. I believe it might be Cambridge, one of them. And the tent was packed out. There was about 500 people, all singing back the lyrics. And at this point, they'd only released like 2 songs or something. But everyone had been watching like live videos from other gigs that people had put up. And it was just really amazing because I thought there was maybe going to be like 20 people. And I didn't want to say it to the band. Like I was like, none of the like streaming statistics are coming up Oxford or Cambridge or wherever it is. Like just all the results that I could see online weren't really directed to there, and because we're lower down on the bill, they were also clashing with this band called Feet, who are my best friends. It's quite sad I didn't get to go see their set, but they were clashing with a really, really hyped up band. So when I came out onto the stage and just saw about 400, 500 people, I was honestly, it was like goosebumps, shivers. And then I got nervous because I don't like being in front of a crowd personally. I like being in the background. But I was just like, wow. And then everyone started singing back all the lyrics. And I was like, this is why I do this. Because you saw the whole band stand there in shock as well. And it's just a feeling of basically getting them, like watching them make their dreams basically is the thing that I do this for.
Totally, and it's really rewarding as well.
Yeah. No, I know.
That's really nice actually. So obviously given the fact that you are a specific artist manager for our own band and you also work for an artist management company, so how does that sort of work differ from what you maybe do with your own band, or is it because you've brought that band under that umbrella as well? Maybe the work's quite similar. Like, do your role differ at all?
So it did in my past up until the beginning of this year actually. So I used to do like Dead Pony / Crystal out with the firm I worked for. So I worked for a management firm called Kingdom Management. And we've had a few changes recently, but last year I was working with Lucia and the Best Boys, Walt Disco, the Ninth Wave on the company. But I still had Dead Pony to myself. And this year we've had a bit of a switch up, so I'm now full-on manager. Well, just to let you know, when I was working with those bands, I was like the assistant manager. So I would do the day-to-day. So checking in that they're practicing and doing all the admin and making sure their hotels are booked, sort of thing. Whereas now I fully am the top artist manager, brought Dead Pony on. Everything pretty much is the same. The only difference is basically when they weren't on the company, I would take like the commission myself. Whereas now the commission goes to the company, but because the company pay me a salary, then you'll, if you go into it, you'll work it out with your employer what those figures are. But that's the only difference. For me, I've preferred bringing them on to the company though, just because it's essentially like what you were saying, when bands have a management name behind them, they get taken a bit more seriously. Having the management firm has already within like 2 or 3 weeks strengthened the emails I'm getting. It also then means like a lot of people will help you out, but as soon as you have all like a big team around you of other artist managers and like an owner, all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'll introduce you to this person and like we'll have these meetings with this person. So I'd say if you go under a firm, it's a bit of a fast track situation. But not everyone wants to fast track it because it is a slow game.
Totally, yeah. And obviously getting involved in like a company, it is very much like other people can vouch for you, so people
Exactly.
take you more
Yeah.
seriously,
Yeah.
which again is a bizarre thing when we analyze it like that, but that's just
No.
obviously the way our industry does work.
Yeah. I know. It also does mean if I have a sick day, I can then also say, "Am I out of office? Please contact like Scott at Kingdom Management." And then I actually get the day off to be sick.
Yeah,
Whereas in the past, I would still have to check my emails in case something important comes in.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot of benefits. Um,
How full on would you say artist management work is?
24/7. Uh, I've learned this year, and it's like I don't really make New Year's resolutions, but I've decided I need to make a sort of boundary between work and my life, just because I'm in a habit of an email comes in at 10 at night and I will respond to it. Um, I love my work and it's the thing that keeps me going, especially during lockdown. Um, but I think it is a 24/7 job because sometimes like your band goes and does a show on a Saturday and like my office hours are Monday to Friday, but that means I have to be there for sound check and have to go see them play, obviously. So that's like another day of your week. And then sometimes like your meetings might end up on to like 9 at night or something. And then also because one of the aims is to take your band to all continents, you have to work with the different time zones. Um, so I think it's a very unpredictable like set of days and set of hours that you need to be willing to do. Um, but if you make boundaries, then you're okay.
Yeah. So bringing it back to sort of basic level. So obviously you're working 9 to 5 for this band. You're doing working with so many emails, setting up emails. So why is it that you have to go to their gigs and their sound checks if you're doing all this extra work?
So I would say that would be for me. I want to make sure the band are good live and that they have the best performance that they could. Because that's what the fans want. They need to put on a good show. Um, and it could be other things like some people call it babysitting duty to make sure that no one gets too drunk before you go on stage. But it's also I like being there for sound check because I like speaking to the sound engineer. Um, I like speaking to the guys who are setting up the stage. And like the lighting techs just to make sure everything's really planned and organized. Further down the line, a tour manager would take that job usually. So I'd say a band, when they start making money, they can hire a tour manager. Um, and they really deal with the band getting to the venue on time and just networking with everyone to make sure everyone's happy and they're good to go. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. I thought that would be an important one to ask. I'm just trying to think back to like obviously starting out as an artist manager and wanting to go into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything that like you wish you knew when you first started artist management? Obviously, looking back in hindsight now at young Rosie when she first started.
Um, Firstly, I wish I knew how full on it was. Because I knew it would be a lot, but I didn't expect it to be this much.
Mhm.
I think it would have also been good for me to have had advice of a lot of the bands I work with tend to be my friends. And you can get it's a conflict of interest essentially, where sometimes you need to be the big, scary, mean person, but you're actually like, oh, this is my best friend. So it can make those conversations difficult. So I wish someone had said to me at the start, make sure before you manage a band, you sit down first and make those boundaries um, of when's appropriate to like discuss band stuff. And you kind of discuss what's the best way to communicate with one another. Um, I think that's very important. I think it's even important to do that if you're not friends with the artist.
Yeah.
But I think small things like that, I really do wish I knew. And I think even just taking chances, because at the start I was quite cautious of approaching people, being like, "Oh, I want my band to play this show." Um, I was very cautious at the start, and over time I learned you just do it because again, it's only a no that you're going to get. But I wish I knew that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, okay. Let's talk about a nice one. So aside from obviously your sort of band highlights, what are some other sort of like, wow, I can't believe this is my job sort of stories that you have from maybe within the music industry in general from all your years of experience? Like what are your some of like top, oh my god, wow, what is this? This is my job.
There's some silly ones and there's some really cool ones. So sometimes I can be sitting in the van going to London with one of the bands, and they can be a nightmare. But it's fun. It's like they could be playing panpipes or something that they've just bought at like a service station that we've all stopped off to get some food and coffee at. And then I just sit there going, how is this my job? Like, how am I getting paid to sit in a van listening to someone play on like panpipes? Like, this is ridiculous. Um, and then other moments, I think it's just meeting people. Like, there's certain people that I think you can idolize, really. So I got to meet Alex Capranos last year from Franz Ferdinand. And I was going to give him a record from the lapels because he had basically inspired part of that album to be written. So my boss Scott was there as well, and he managed to pull in a favor. And I went into like this huge tent, and the whole of Franz Ferdinand were in front of me, and they like got rid of their security, they got rid of everyone, and they all just sat down with me and spoke to me for 20-30 minutes, gave me their personal email addresses. And then when I was in the crowd, they made a big speech about me to like 3,000 people, and I started crying. I'm a crier. And I was just like for me, I was like, how is this my job? Like, how have I just met Alex Capranos?
Yeah.
To 20 minutes later, him telling 3,000 people about my life.
Wow.
And I was just like, it's the wee things like that. For me, I actually, a personal thing that I don't really like is when people name drop. But I know I've just done that. But you do get to meet some of your idols. And I know people say never meet your idols, but for me, like that was amazing. That was a really, really lovely one. And Alex offered to, once COVID is done, get me a wee coffee date with Edwyn Collins to give him another album. And the fact that I could be sitting down with coffee with Edwyn Collins blows my mind, like every day. Yeah, that's one good thing coming out of COVID. So.
I mean, I suppose given the fact that it's the music industry, like these people are obviously celebrities and like musicians and
Yeah.
are in the place of stardom, but we're probably the few that are the closest to them because of the work that we do. This
Exactly.
is just normal day to day. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
they're human beings after all, and we're the ones that obviously work with them.
Yeah.
But you do end up catching yourself like, oh my god, like that's a thing I am currently doing.
No, I know. It's a bit mad. I was like one of our artists as well, Lucia, and the Best Boys. They got to support Miles Kane last year. And I was just in awe of going, is that Miles Kane? Like 10 steps away from me. But at the end of the day, these people are just humans. And I think what I've learned is they prefer when you speak to them like a human instead of, can I get a picture with you? Like, just sign my shirt and walk away. Like, they actually like when you go, how's your day been? Yeah, they're all human at heart. So it's nice.
We're ruining the glamour and the allure.
No, I know.
With all
I'm sorry, everyone.
trade secrets. Yeah. So obviously, given the absolute mentalness of these past 12 months,
Yeah.
how has COVID-19 affected your job, particularly as an artist manager just now?
It has been difficult, if I'm honest. So number one, all concerts and all gigs went out the window. So for me as an assistant manager at that time, when primarily that's what I would sort of focus on, a lot of my work just disappeared, and I found myself not really knowing what to do anymore. But fortunately, I was in the position where I was about to get moved up anyway. I think it's hard for me. I have a sense of guilt and I don't know why I feel guilty, but sometimes it's having to give so much bad news to the artists because they've not got to play a gig in over a year. And then you need to think about like, well, if they can't go on tour, should we release music and things? And everything just keeps changing. And it's even like the amount of Zoom calls is intense now. Whereas I'm just used to sort of going for a coffee or going for lunch with someone, having the meeting then. Whereas now I feel like I'm behind my screen for 10 hours a day. And because there's a lot of uncertainty, no one has answers anymore. I also feel like COVID, well, I know COVID stopped a lot of bands getting record deals as well. So I struggled with that a lot because I felt like I was a bearer of bad news all the time. But then you need to realize like it isn't your fault. And all you can do is keep getting stronger. You work on the music and you work on everything you possibly can to make everyone as happy as possible. And as soon as COVID is done, then we're all ready to go play again and take it serious.
Suppose maybe just using this time as a sort of, you know, like you said, practice, get better at things, do lots of behind the scenes things to, you know, get ready, because things will eventually come back. Maybe not as soon as maybe first anticipated or imagined, but again, who can predict what's going to happen tomorrow?
Exactly.
With everything. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So do you have any sort of advice for young people that are wanting to get started within artist management? Like, how would you go about doing it?
I would firstly maybe just research things that are going on around about you. Or even if like you might be the person that wants to move to London. But I think just reaching out to people is what I learned is the easiest way. Because a lot of people will reply to you. Might not get back to you on the same day, but I'd say within a week they'll probably reply to your email, or I'd usually stick to email rather than like Twitter or like Instagram. I think they'll remember to reply to you essentially. Better that way. My advice is basically just go for it. There's no stopping you, and the music industry constantly needs younger and younger people. Like the industry changes every single day, and you need people to keep you on your toes and people who can educate you. It's like I've got like my 16-year-old cousin teaching me how to use TikTok. I don't know how to use TikTok, but it's vital in the music industry apparently right now. So yeah, I think just kind of narrow down maybe what you want to do, and if you don't, just go meet with people. When I was starting out, I had about 10 meetings of tour managers and everything, as I was saying earlier, and they all just gave me advice, and that's all you can really look for, I suppose. And then trial it out. It might not be the right thing that you want to do, but at least you tried.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Speak to as many people as you can about it, and at the end of the day, artist managers are always going to be needed, because when you're an artist, like you don't have time to sit and answer your emails when you're writing music. So which is why obviously people like you are very important, because you're there to take the weight of that.
Yeah, that's the thing. I might not know how to write a song, but I can sort out everything in the background so that the artist can write that song. So I can't imagine being an artist and not having a manager. Because when would you get time to write music? You just don't.
No. And also you might find that maybe you're a little bit too close to the music that you're making. You might think it's the most wonderful thing in the world that you've written, but sometimes you need that second ear to maybe tell you, actually, if you did this, maybe it would be better.
No, exactly.
It's funny because artist managers are like completely vilified, and
they are
the years
people.
Yeah, you're terrible. You're evil. You steal money from artists.
No, I know.
But, actually, it's like the opposite, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's a few bad eggs that have given artist managers a terrible name.
No, I know. But as long as you're a good person, then you'll find the right team. Like finding like Crystal and now Dead Pony, I have always said if they bump into another manager or see someone else, and they're like, that's what we want to do because that would be better for us, I've always said go for it.
Mm-hmm.
But it will break my heart because I see my bands like children now. I'm too attached, so
I
yeah,
mean, it's a lot of work that you do end up putting in yourself,
yeah,
and you can't help it because
yeah,
their achievements are your achievements.
yeah. It was like with Walt Disco, I would always call them my babies, but they would call me tour momager um, all the time. That was my nickname in the office because basically they were like, "You are like our mum," and it's just like fixing their hair and everything before they go on
Yeah.
stage. So yeah, it's a very diverse job, I'd say. But it's very interesting and it's fun.